You people always do this. Miranda Langston's voice sliced through the luxury supermarket aisle like a blade. You drift into places you don't belong, pretending you fit in, touching things you could never afford. She lifted her phone higher, making sure the live stream camera captured every second. Look at you, she sneered, standing next to my dog like you found a new owner. Did you think if you touched something expensive long enough, it might mistake you for someone important? Her smile widened, cold, surgical. You're like a stray walking into a penthouse, wagging your tail and hoping nobody notices the smell. Miranda tilted her head, letting her words drip slowly. So, tell me, did you plan to steal my dog tonight? Or is this just what people like you do when they wander into the wrong neighborhood? The comments on the live stream exploded, and in the center of the aisle, Dr. Alana Brooks stood perfectly still. Alana Brooks, 34, black, a forensic accountant and single mother, had walked into the Manhattan luxury supermarket only minutes earlier with her two daughters. She wore a simple navy jacket and carried a small grocery basket. Nothing about her suggested confrontation. She was the kind of woman who studied numbers for a living. Quiet, precise, disciplined, but right now the entire store was staring at her like she was a criminal. Across from her stood Miranda Langston, 48, white billionaire logistics magnate and socialite influencer, dressed in a cream designer coat with a diamond collar glinting under the store lights. Her phone hovered in front of her face as tens of thousands of live stream viewers poured into the broadcast. Behind Miranda stood her entourage, three wealthy influencer friends holding their own phones, each recording from a different angle. Atlas, Miranda's massive gray dog, pressed against Alana's leg. The animal's tail wagged slowly, and he refused to move. Miranda's voice rose, dramatically. You see that? She shouted to the camera. This woman is trying to take my dog. One of her friends stepped forward immediately, a tall blonde woman in red heels. Oh my God, she gasped loudly, playing directly to the live stream audience. Did you see her grab the leash? I didn't grab anything, Alana said quietly. Another friend laughed. Sure you didn't. Phones turned toward Alana's daughters. Two young girls, wide-eyed and frozen. Miranda leaned closer. Are those your kids? She asked with fake sweetness. Alana didn't answer. Miranda smirked. Then maybe you should think about what lesson you're teaching them. Stealing in public? Atlas suddenly wagged harder. He nudged Alana's hand gently. Miranda's smile flickered for a split second. Atlas, she snapped. Come here. The dog didn't move. The live stream chat exploded with comments. Call the police. That woman is stealing. Look at her, pretending to be innocent. Miranda turned dramatically back to the camera. You're all seeing this live, she announced loudly. A woman threatening me and trying to take my dog. She pulled out her phone and dialed. Yes, she said into the speaker. I need police at Langston Market on Madison immediately. A dangerous woman is harassing me. The word dangerous hung in the air like smoke. Several shoppers stepped backward. A store manager hurried over, adjusting his tie nervously. Ms. Langston, he said carefully, is there a problem? Miranda turned the phone toward him. This woman, she said sharply, tried to take my dog. The manager looked at Alana. His expression shifted instantly. Well, ma'am, maybe you should step away from the animal. I'm not touching him, Alana replied. But Atlas pressed even closer to her leg. The manager cleared his throat. Security. A large guard approached. Miranda's friends continued, narrating the scene for their cameras. She grabbed the dog earlier. I saw it too. She's aggressive. The words layered over each other until they sounded like a chorus. Alana finally spoke again. Your dog ran to me. Miranda laughed. Oh, that's adorable, she said loudly to the live stream. Now she thinks my dog chose her. Atlas suddenly lifted his head. Alana bent slightly, very quietly. She whispered something. Just one phrase. Miranda's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. Then she recovered. Don't touch him, she shouted. The security guard stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back. Alana looked down at Atlas again. The dog refused to move. Sirens echoed faintly outside the store. The police were coming. Miranda's live stream numbers kept climbing. 20,000 viewers, 30,000, 50,000. The story was already spreading across social media. But Alana's mind wasn't on the cameras. It was on the word she had just whispered to the dog, a word she hadn't spoken in years, a word tied to a memory she had buried after her mother's life was destroyed by a failed investigation, a word Atlas had recognized immediately. Miranda didn't know it yet, but the moment Atlas ran to Alana, something old had resurfaced, and now the entire internet was watching. Suddenly, Miranda lifted her phone again and turned toward the camera. "Stay with us," she said dramatically, "because when the police get here, we're going to see what happens when someone thinks they can steal from the wrong person." Atlas growled softly, not at Alana, at Miranda, and for the first time since the live stream began. Miranda Langston looked nervous. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. If you have ever been judged, humiliated, or falsely accused simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, then what happens next with Alana Brooks will make you hold your breath. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Black Resilience Stories to see how truth can rise even when the entire crowd believes the lie. Because in the next scene, the police arrive, and Miranda Langston's carefully crafted story begins to tighten like a trap. The police arrived faster than anyone expected. 2 NYPD officers stepped through the glass doors of the luxury Manhattan supermarket, their radios crackling softly as they scanned the crowded aisle. But before they could say a single word, Miranda Langston was already performing. "There they are," she announced loudly to her live stream audience, turning the camera toward the officers like a spotlight. "Officers, thank God. This woman has been threatening me and trying to take my dog." Every phone in the aisle turned toward the scene. Alana Brooks stood quietly beside her daughters. Atlas remained pressed against her leg. The first officer, a tall man in his 40s with a calm expression, glanced at the dog. Then at Miranda. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "we're going to need everyone to relax while we figure out what's happening." Miranda gave a dramatic sigh. "Oh, of course. I'm perfectly calm." Her voice softened instantly, polished, controlled, but the live stream audience could still hear every word. "She approached my dog, grabbed the leash, and started trying to walk away with him." "That's not true," Alana said quietly. Miranda turned sharply. "Are you calling me a liar?" Her friends jumped in instantly. "Yes, officer," one of them said loudly. "We all saw it. She grabbed him. She got aggressive when Miranda told her to stop." Phones kept recording. The second officer, a younger woman, glanced around at the crowd. "Did anyone else see what happened?" The store manager immediately stepped forward. "Well, yes," he said hesitantly. Miranda's eyes flicked toward him, a silent command. "Yes," the manager corrected quickly. "This woman appeared to approach Ms. Langston's dog." The younger officer scribbled notes. Alana noticed something strange. Miranda's friends weren't just speaking randomly. They were watching Miranda carefully before every sentence, as if waiting for instructions. Miranda shifted slightly and typed something on her phone. A group message. Alana caught a glimpse of the screen. "Stick to the same story." Then Miranda looked back up and smiled sweetly. "Officers, I just want to resolve this peacefully." Her voice carried just enough sympathy to make the live stream audience believe her, but Atlas suddenly lifted his head and gave a low growl. The officers noticed. "Why won't the dog go back to you?" the older officer asked. Miranda's smile tightened. "He's confused," she said quickly. She snapped her fingers. "Atlas, come." The dog didn't move. Instead, Atlas leaned closer to Alana. The live stream chat exploded again. "Why is the dog staying with her? That's weird. Maybe the dog likes her better." Miranda's jaw clenched. One of her friends quickly stepped forward, raising her phone closer to Alana's face. "Look at her pretending to be calm," she said to the live stream audience. "People like this always act innocent when the police show up." The security guard stepped closer to Alana. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "I'm going to need you to step away from the dog." Alana looked down. Atlas didn't move. "I'm not touching him," she said. Miranda rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please! Now she's going to play the victim." The older officer turned to Miranda. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to lower your voice." Miranda's expression hardened slightly. Then she smiled again for the live stream. "Of course, officer." But at that moment, the glass doors of the supermarket opened again. A sharply dressed man stepped inside carrying a leather briefcase, Miranda's lawyer. He walked directly toward the group. "Miranda," he said calmly, "I came as soon as I saw the live stream." The officers exchanged a look. "You're recording this?" the lawyer asked quietly. Miranda tilted her phone toward him. "Of course." "The yes, I," lawyer nodded slowly. "Good." He turned toward the officers. "My client is one of the most recognizable public figures in this city," he said smoothly, "and right now she is being harassed." The older officer frowned. "We're still investigating." The lawyer leaned slightly closer. "Of course, but I would strongly recommend resolving this situation quickly." He glanced at Alana, then at the crowd of cameras. "This type of scene can easily escalate online." Alana felt the trap tightening. Miranda's friends were still live streaming. The lawyer had arrived instantly. The manager had already sided with Miranda. Even the security guard was blocking her path. It was happening too smoothly, too coordinated. Then Miranda's phone buzzed again. She glanced down. Alana heard her whisper something quietly to the lawyer. 3 words. "Doc records tonight." The lawyer's face changed slightly. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. Miranda nodded. "They can't exist by midnight." Alana felt a chill run down her spine. Doc records. Her mind raced. Years ago, during a forensic audit she conducted for a logistics firm, she had uncovered irregular shipping routes connected to Langston Logistics. That investigation had disappeared overnight, and her mother, the whistleblower who pushed to expose it, had lost everything: career, reputation, freedom. Alana had never proven who buried the case. Until now. Atlas suddenly wagged his tail again. Alana looked down at the dog. The word she whispered earlier echoed in her mind. Doc 7. Atlas had reacted instantly, which meant the dog had been there. Miranda's voice cut through her thoughts again. "Officers," she said impatiently, "this woman is clearly refusing to cooperate." The lawyer checked his watch. "We should finalize the incident report," he said calmly. The younger officer looked uncertain. "We're still collecting statements." The lawyer's tone sharpened. Slightly. "My client has an important engagement tonight." Miranda turned dramatically back toward the live stream. "You're all seeing this," she said loudly. "I'm trying to resolve this peacefully, but some people just refuse to admit when they've done something wrong." The crowd murmured. The pressure in the aisle grew heavier. Alana looked at the officers, then at the cameras, then at the dog beside her. Something inside her mind was beginning to connect. Atlas, Doc 7, Langston Logistics. The past was catching up to the present, and Miranda Langston clearly knew it, because her voice suddenly lost its playful tone. She turned quietly toward her lawyer and whispered, "We need this report signed tonight." The air inside the supermarket aisle felt heavier now, not just crowded, judging. Phones were still raised, cameras still recording. The livestream audience had climbed past 70,000 viewers, and the comments rolled across Miranda Langston's screen like a storm. "Arrest her." "People like that always play innocent. Why is she still standing there?" Dr. Alana Brooks said nothing. She stood beside her daughters, her hands calm at her sides. Atlas remained pressed against her leg. The dog's breathing was steady, almost protective. But Miranda Langston was finished pretending patience. The billionaire socialite lowered her phone slowly and stepped closer to Alana, her heels clicking sharply against the polished supermarket floor. "Let's stop wasting everyone's time," Miranda said coldly. Her voice carried perfectly through the live stream microphone. "You approached my dog." "That's not true," Alana replied quietly. Miranda laughed, a short, cruel sound. "Oh, so now you're going to argue with me?" Her friends immediately circled closer. Phones raised, cameras pointed. A tall woman in a silver coat smirked at Alana. "You really should think about apologizing," she said, "before this gets worse for you." The livestream chat exploded again. Miranda tilted her head slightly, watching Alana with the calm confidence of someone used to controlling every room she entered. "You know what the problem is?" Miranda said slowly. She turned slightly so the live stream could see Alana's face clearly. People like you walk into places like this, and you forget that cameras exist. The security guard moved closer behind Alana. A silent pressure. The older police officer looked between them, his expression growing more cautious. "Let's keep this respectful," he said. Miranda lifted one eyebrow. "Respectful?" Then she gestured toward the dog. "My dog is worth more than everything in that grocery basket." A few shoppers laughed nervously. Miranda smiled again. "So, imagine my surprise when someone tries to walk out with him." "I didn't touch your dog," Alana repeated. Miranda shrugged. "That's not what my witnesses say." Right on cue, her friend spoke again. "Yes, officer." She grabbed him. She was pulling the leash. She got aggressive. The words layered again, a chorus of confirmation. The younger officer scribbled notes. The store manager stepped forward again, clearly uncomfortable, but determined to stand on Miranda's side. "Ms. Langston is a respected customer here," he said carefully. "We've never had any problems with her." The implication hung in the air. Miranda folded her arms. "Exactly." Then she leaned closer to Alana. "And yet somehow tonight, this woman shows up and causes a scene." The cameras zoomed in. Alana's daughters clutched her coat. Miranda noticed. Her smile sharpened. "Oh, look at that." She pointed at the girls. "Your kids are watching this." Her voice dropped slightly, almost sympathetic. "You should really think about what kind of example you're setting." Alana's jaw tightened. Miranda tilted her phone toward the girls so the livestream audience could see their frightened faces. "Stealing in public," Miranda continued softly. "That's not exactly great parenting." The younger daughter started crying quietly. The sound sliced through the aisle. For a moment, even some shoppers looked uncomfortable. But Miranda wasn't finished. She turned back toward the police officers. "I'm willing to be generous," she said calmly. The word generous sounded like poison. "I won't press charges if she apologizes right now." Her friends nodded dramatically. "Yes, that seems fair." "Just apologize. Say you made a mistake." Miranda raised her phone higher so the live stream could capture Alana's response. "Go ahead," she said softly. "Tell everyone you're sorry." The aisle went silent. 70,000 viewers waited. Alana looked down at her daughters. Then she looked at Atlas. The dog's ears twitched slightly, and something strange flickered across the live stream screen. A small notification from a pet tracking app connected briefly to Miranda's phone, a microchip scan alert, just for a split second. But Alana saw it. A string of numbers flashed across the screen, numbers that meant nothing to anyone else watching. But to a forensic accountant who had spent years analyzing shipping records, it looked very familiar. The format, the sequence, a logistics identification code. Alana's mind moved quickly. Years ago, she had been hired to audit irregular financial activity connected to Langston Logistics. That investigation had uncovered strange shipment patterns, unregistered routes, hidden dock transfers. Then suddenly the entire case vanished, documents erased, witnesses silenced. Her mother, the whistleblower pushing the investigation forward, had been blamed for falsifying records. Her reputation destroyed overnight. Alana had never proven who buried the case, but the code she just saw matched the exact pattern used in those shipping logs. And now it was embedded inside Atlas's microchip registry. Atlas wagged his tail again and nudged Alana's hand. Miranda noticed the movement. Her eyes narrowed. "See?" she snapped. "She's still touching him." "Ah, I'm not," Alana said calmly. But Miranda had already turned toward the officers. "This is exactly what I meant," she said. "She refuses to cooperate." The lawyer stepped forward again, adjusting his cufflinks. "Officers," he said smoothly, "I believe this situation has gone on long enough." The younger officer hesitated. "We still need to verify." "Verify what?" Miranda interrupted sharply. "You have multiple witnesses." She gestured toward her friends. "You have the live stream. Recording." She turned slowly toward Alana again. "And you have someone who clearly refuses to admit when they're wrong." The security guard moved closer. The pressure tightened. Alana realized something painful in that moment. This wasn't just humiliation. It was documentation. Miranda wasn't just embarrassing her. She was building a case, creating a story, and once that story was signed into an official police report, it would become truth. Miranda stepped forward one last time. "Last chance," she said quietly. "Apologize, and this goes away." Alana looked at her daughters again, then at the dog, then at Miranda, and for the first time since the confrontation began, she spoke with absolute certainty. "I didn't do anything wrong." Miranda's smile vanished. The lawyer checked his watch. "Officers," he said calmly, "I believe we should proceed with the incident report." The older officer exhaled slowly. The aisle felt colder. The trap was closing. But Alana's mind was no longer focused on the humiliation. It was focused on the numbers she saw, the code hidden inside Atlas's chip. Because if that code meant what she thought it meant, this dog wasn't just part of a confrontation. It was part of the investigation that destroyed her mother's life. And Miranda Langston clearly knew it. "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Matthew 5:10. The tension inside the supermarket had shifted. It was no longer just humiliation. Now it was procedure, the kind that could bury a person permanently. Miranda Langston's lawyer stepped forward with quiet authority, the leather folder in his hand already open. "Officers," he said smoothly, "we should finalize the incident report before this situation escalates further." The older officer frowned slightly. "We're still collecting statements." The lawyer nodded politely. "Of course, but given the number of witnesses present and the live stream recording, it should be a straightforward process." Miranda folded her arms and turned back toward the camera. "You're all watching this live," she said calmly to her audience. "I simply want this situation resolved." The livestream viewers had climbed past 90,000. The comment section scrolled so fast it looked like rain. "Arrest her. Stop wasting time. Rich people get targeted like this all the time." Alana Brooks stood quietly in the center of the aisle. Atlas remained beside her. The dog hadn't moved for nearly 20 minutes. The younger officer looked uncertain. "Ma'am," she said to Alana gently, "we're going to need your statement." Before Alana could answer, Miranda's lawyer spoke again. "My client would prefer to complete this report within the next hour." The officer glanced up. "Why the rush?" The lawyer smiled politely. "Ms. Langston has an important charity gala tonight." Miranda nodded solemnly for the live stream audience. "I really don't want to make a bigger issue out of this." But Alana noticed something else. Miranda's eyes weren't on the officers. They kept drifting toward the clock mounted on the supermarket wall, 7:12 p.m. Miranda's jaw tightened slightly. The lawyer leaned closer and whispered something quietly. Alana caught only 2 words. "Before 9. Her mind moved quickly. Something had to disappear. Before 9 p.m. doc records. That's what Miranda had said earlier. Atlas suddenly shifted beside her. His collar jingled softly. Miranda snapped her fingers again. "Atlas, come!" The dog lifted his head, but he didn't move. Instead, he let out a low growl. The sound rippled through the aisle. Even the officers noticed. "That's unusual," the older officer said. Miranda forced a laugh. "He's just confused." The lawyer quickly changed the subject. "Officers," he said calmly, "perhaps we should begin documenting statements." The younger officer nodded reluctantly. "All right, let's start with the witnesses." Miranda's friends stepped forward immediately, almost rehearsed. "Yes, officer," the blonde woman said confidently. "This woman grabbed Atlas's leash." Another woman nodded. "She got aggressive when Miranda asked her to stop." The security guard added his voice. "I saw her standing close to the dog." The store manager cleared his ITICRC throat. "Ms. Langston is one of our most valued customers." The pattern was clear, one voice after another, layering the same story. Alana recognized it instantly. Narrative stacking, a tactic used to make false testimony appear unanimous. The older officer scribbled notes. The lawyer glanced again at the wall clock. 7:16 p.m. Miranda's live stream viewers crossed 100,000. "Look at the comments," Miranda said dramatically to the camera. "They're all saying the same thing. She turned slowly toward Alana. "You should really just apologize." The words were quiet now, cold, controlled. "This ends if you admit what you did." Alana met her gaze calmly. "I didn't do anything." Miranda's eyes flashed. For a split second, the mask cracked. The lawyer stepped closer to the officers again. "We would like this report finalized within 90 minutes, he said firmly. The younger officer blinked. 90 minutes? The lawyer nodded. "The longer this continues, the more disruptive it becomes." The older officer looked at Alana, then at Miranda, then at the crowd of cameras. "Fine," he said slowly. "We'll complete the report by 8:45. Miranda's shoulders relaxed slightly. Alana felt the trap snap into place. 90 minutes. Once the report was signed, the official record would say she attempted to steal the dog. The video clips would spread online. Her name would appear in headlines. Her job would disappear. Her daughters would carry that shame forever. Miranda turned back to the live stream again. "See?" she said sweetly. "The system works." Atlas suddenly nudged Alana's hand again, harder this time. His collar shifted slightly, and something small glinted under the supermarket lights. A metallic scanner tag attached to the collar. The younger officer noticed it too. "Is that a tracking chip?" she asked. Miranda's head snapped toward the dog. "Yes," she said quickly. "Atlas is microchipped." The officer nodded. "Standard procedure for animal disputes is to verify ownership." Miranda's smile froze. "That won't be necessary." The officer frowned. "It's actually very simple." She reached for a handheld scanner from her belt. Miranda stepped forward quickly. "Officer," but the scanner was already moving toward Atlas's collar. Alana felt the dog's body tense slightly. The lawyer suddenly spoke sharply. "Is that really required?" The older officer shrugged. "It's routine." Miranda's voice hardened. "My ownership is not in question." The younger officer held the scanner closer. "Just a quick verification." Miranda glanced at the wall clock again. 7:22 p.m. Her eyes flicked briefly toward the lawyer, then toward the exit doors, then back toward the scanner. For the first time since the confrontation began, Miranda Langston looked genuinely afraid. Alana saw it, and suddenly she understood something critical. The dog wasn't the problem. The chip was. Because whatever was buried in that microchip database, Miranda needed it erased before 9 p.m. Atlas nudged Alana's hand again. The scanner beeped softly. The younger officer looked down at the device. Her eyebrows rose. "That's strange." Miranda's voice cut sharply across the aisle. "What does it say?" The officer turned the screen toward the older officer. "Not just a pet ID," she said slowly. "There's something else attached to the record." The lawyer stepped forward immediately. "That must be a system error." But the officer was already scrolling. Numbers, codes, registration data. Alana recognized the format instantly. The same structure she had seen earlier on the livestream. Logistics routing codes, shipping identification numbers, hidden deep inside a dog's microchip registry. Miranda's voice turned sharp. "Turn that off." But the officer ignored her, and Alana realized something terrifying. The final piece of the investigation that destroyed her mother might be hiding inside Atlas's chip. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be brought to light. Luke 8:17. If you've ever watched someone powerful try to twist the truth and control the story, then what just appeared on that scanner is about to change everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Black Resilience Stories, because what happens next will push this story into its most dangerous moment yet. Because in the next scene, Miranda Langston stops pretending, and Alana Brooks becomes the target of something far worse than humiliation. The scanner just revealed a code Miranda desperately needed erased before 9 p.m., and now she's going to do whatever it takes to stop that information from leaving this store. The scanner beeped again, a short mechanical sound, but in the middle of the crowded supermarket aisle, it landed like a gunshot. The younger officer stared at the screen in confusion. "That's not normal." Miranda Langston stepped forward instantly. "What does it say?" she demanded. The officer didn't answer immediately. Instead, she handed the scanner to her partner. The older officer studied the screen. His brow tightened. "This chip has additional data fields attached," he said slowly. Miranda's voice sharpened. That's impossible. But Alana Brooks already knew. Her mind had been racing ever since she saw the numbers flash earlier. The formatting, the sequence, the same pattern used in Langston Logistics' internal shipping records, codes tied to offshore cargo routes that had vanished from official ledgers years ago, the investigation that destroyed her mother's life. The older officer scrolled through the screen again. These numbers look like registration identifiers, he said. Miranda's lawyer stepped forward immediately. That's a private corporate system, he said calmly. It's not relevant to this situation. The officer looked up. It's attached to the dog's chip. Miranda's voice cut through the air. Turn it off. The command was cold, sharp, but the officer didn't move. Instead, he turned toward Miranda. Ma'am, do you want to explain why your dog's microchip contains corporate registration codes? Miranda's smile returned instantly. Smooth, effortless. Oh, that's simple, she said lightly. Atlas travels with me frequently. He's registered in several systems. Her lawyer nodded. Security protocols. The explanation sounded polished, prepared, but the officer wasn't convinced. Still, he said slowly, that's unusual. Miranda glanced quickly at the wall clock. 7:26 p.m. Her jaw tightened. She turned sharply back toward the live stream. You're all watching this, she said dramatically. Now the police are digging through my private records instead of dealing with the real issue. Her friends immediately jumped back into character. This is ridiculous. She tried to steal the dog. Why are we wasting time? The live stream chat began shifting again. Yeah, deal with the thief. Stop harassing Miranda. Miranda's voice softened again. Officer, she said calmly, this woman is still refusing to cooperate. The security guard stepped closer to Alana. Ma'am, he said firmly, I'm going to need you to move away. Atlas growled again, low, protective. The younger daughter tightened her grip on Alana's coat. Mom, she whispered. Alana felt the fear in her daughter's voice and the pressure of 100,000 watching eyes. The trap was tightening faster now. Miranda's lawyer spoke quietly to the officers again. If you're finished with the chip scan, we should return to the matter at hand. The older officer nodded slowly. Then he turned toward Alana. Ma'am, he said, we need to determine whether you interfered with this animal. Miranda folded her arms. This is taking far too long. But before anyone could respond, a phone buzzed loudly. One of Miranda's influencer friends. The woman in the silver coat glanced at the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. Miranda noticed immediately. What is it? She snapped. The woman hesitated. Nothing. Miranda stepped closer. Show me. Reluctantly, the woman turned the phone toward her. A message notification glowed on the screen. Full live stream backup saved. Miranda's expression changed, just for a moment. Then it hardened. Delete that, she said quietly. The woman froze. It's automatic, she said nervously. My channel archives everything. Miranda leaned closer. Then delete the archive. The woman didn't move. And Alana noticed something important. Fear. Real fear. Inside Miranda's circle. Miranda's voice dropped lower. Now. But the woman hesitated. I can't delete it while the stream is active. The lawyer stepped forward quickly. We'll handle it later. Miranda stared at the woman for another second. Then she turned away. But the crack had appeared. Inside the pack. Meanwhile, the older officer handed the scanner back to his partner. Let's finish the statements, he said. The younger officer nodded. Then she turned toward Alana again. Ma'am, please step forward. Miranda's voice rose instantly. Careful, officer. Her tone was sharp again. This woman has already shown aggressive behavior. The security guard moved closer again. 2 steps, blocking Alana's path. The younger officer looked uncomfortable, but procedure was already moving. Dr. Brooks, the officer said carefully. Did you attempt to take possession of this dog? No. Did you approach it? It approached me. Miranda laughed loudly. You see? Her friends echoed again. She's lying. She grabbed the leash. The security guard stepped closer. We saw her. The pressure inside the aisle thickened. The live stream comments surged again. "Arrest her already. Stop wasting time." The older officer exhaled slowly. Then he looked at Alana. "Ma'am," he said reluctantly, "we may need to detain you while we sort this out." The word detain dropped like a hammer. Her daughters froze. The younger one started crying again. Miranda watched quietly, satisfied. The lawyer checked his watch. 7:31 p.m. Still more than an hour before the deadline. Plenty of time to lock the story. Alana's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from realization. If she stayed silent now, Miranda would win. The report would be signed, the live stream narrative would spread, and the codes hidden inside Atlas's chip would vanish before anyone investigated them. But if she fought back, everything could explode. Her career, her reputation, her daughter's safety. The security guard reached toward her arm. "Ma'am, wait." The word came from somewhere unexpected. The influencer woman in the silver coat stepped forward suddenly. Miranda's head snapped around. "What are you doing?" The woman hesitated. Then she spoke. The dog never left her side. The entire aisle went silent. Miranda's voice turned icy. "Excuse me?" The woman swallowed. Maybe we should look at the footage again." Miranda's eyes blazed, but the damage was done. A crack inside the pack, and the officers noticed. The older officer turned slowly back toward the scanner. "Actually," he said, "we're going to review that chip data more carefully." Miranda's smile vanished, and for the first time, the billionaire realized something terrifying. The dog she used to accuse Alana had just become evidence. The aisle fell silent. One sentence had broken the rhythm Miranda Langston had been controlling for nearly half an hour. The dog never left her side. Everyone turned toward the woman who had spoken, the influencer in the silver coat. Miranda stared at her like she had just committed treason. "What did you just say?" Miranda asked slowly. The woman swallowed hard, clearly regretting opening her mouth. But the live stream was still running, and more than 120,000 viewers were watching. "I just meant," she stammered. "Maybe the dog ran to her first." Miranda's eyes narrowed. "You were standing right there," she said quietly. "You saw her grab the leash." The woman hesitated. The smallest pause. But it was enough. The older police officer noticed. He turned back toward the scanner. "Let's check that chip again," he said calmly. Miranda stepped forward immediately. "That's unnecessary." But the officer had already taken the device from his partner. Atlas shifted beside Alana, tail swaying slowly. The scanner beeped again as it passed over the collar. The officer scrolled through the screen. His eyebrows lifted slightly. "These codes aren't just identification numbers," he said. The lawyer stiffened. "They're internal logistics routing identifiers." Alana felt the shift immediately. The room's energy changed. Miranda's friends stopped speaking. The live stream comments slowed. "What kind of logistics?" the younger officer asked. The older officer turned the scanner so she could see. "Shipping lanes, dock entries, cargo manifests." Miranda's lawyer moved quickly. "That data is proprietary corporate information," he said firmly. "It has nothing to do with this situation." But Alana finally spoke. "Yes, it does." Every head turned toward her. Even Miranda froze. Alana's voice remained calm. "Those numbers belong to Langston Logistics." Miranda's smile vanished. The live stream chat erupted. "Wait, what? What is she talking about?" The older officer looked back at the screen. "You recognize these codes?" he asked. Alana nodded slowly. "I used to audit financial irregularities in shipping networks." Miranda laughed sharply. "Oh, please." But the sound lacked confidence now. Alana continued. "Those numbers are part of a routing system used to move cargo through offshore docks." The officer frowned. "Why would they be embedded in a dog's microchip?" Miranda's lawyer answered quickly. "Security tagging." But Alana shook her head. "No." Her voice was steady. "It's a reference key." Miranda's jaw tightened. The officer leaned closer to the scanner again. "A reference to what?" Alana looked directly at Miranda. "To hidden shipping records." The words landed like thunder. The live stream exploded again. Hidden records? This is getting crazy. The officer's voice grew more serious. Ms. Langston, he said slowly, we may need to investigate this further. Miranda's composure cracked. For the first time since the confrontation began, she looked genuinely furious. This is absurd, she snapped. My dog is not part of some conspiracy. But the older officer wasn't looking at her anymore. He was still staring at the scanner. These codes connect to a database link, he said. If this is real, it might lead to a larger system. Miranda's lawyer stepped closer again. We strongly advise you to stop accessing that data. The officer looked up. Why? The lawyer's tone hardened. Because it belongs to a private corporation. But the officer shook his head. It's embedded in a registered animal microchip. Miranda turned sharply toward the live stream again. You see what's happening? She said loudly. Now they're trying to turn this into some ridiculous investigation. But the live stream audience wasn't fully on her side anymore. The comments had changed. Why would shipping codes be in a dog chip? That's weird. Miranda noticed it, and panic flickered across her face. Alana felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time tonight, the wind had changed direction. The officer turned toward Miranda again. Ma'am, we're going to need a full explanation. Miranda's lawyer stepped forward again, voice controlled. We will address that through proper legal channels. But the officer shook his head. No, right now. The aisle was quiet again. Even the camera seemed to lean closer. Miranda's voice dropped lower. You're making a mistake. But the officer didn't move. Alana realized something important in that moment. Miranda's empire relied on controlling the narrative. And for the first time tonight, she was losing control. The livestream viewers climbed past 150,000. Someone in the crowd whispered. Maybe she wasn't lying. Alana felt a flicker of hope. Then Miranda Langston smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. Oh, I see what's happening. She turned back toward the officers. This woman is trying to distract you. The lawyer reached into his briefcase. I believe this will clarify the situation. He pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, then turned it toward the officers. Security camera footage from the supermarket. A clip began playing. The footage showed Alana earlier in the aisle. The angle was grainy, but in the video, Alana appeared to reach toward Atlas, her voice raised, the dog barking. The moment looked aggressive. The officer frowned. Where did this come from? Store security, the lawyer said calmly. The video looped again. Now the live stream audience saw it too. The comments shifted instantly. Wait, she did touch the dog. That looks bad. Miranda's smile widened. You see? The officer turned toward Alana. Did this happen? Alana stared at the screen. Something felt wrong. The timing, the angle, but the damage was already spreading. The livestream chat turned hostile again. She lied. Arrest her. The officer's voice hardened. Ma'am, you told us you never touched the dog. Miranda folded her arms, satisfied. The lawyer closed the tablet slowly. Officers, he said calmly, we believe the situation is now clear. The younger officer sighed. The momentum had flipped again. Alana felt the weight of the moment pressing down. Just seconds ago, it had looked like Miranda's empire might crack. Now the entire narrative was collapsing back onto her. Miranda leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I warned you. Alana felt the trap closing again. But deep inside her mind, one thought refused to fade. The full live stream archive still existed, and somewhere inside that recording was the truth Miranda couldn't erase. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. The supermarket aisle felt colder now. Moments earlier, the momentum had shifted toward Alana Brooks.
You thought you could get away
Now
with
the
it?
security footage
Everyone
looping on the
look!
lawyer's tablet
This woman
told a
is a
very
fraud!
different story. In the clip, Alana appeared to reach toward Atlas. Her voice raised, the dog barking. From the camera's angle, it looked aggressive, and the live stream audience had already judged her. The comments flooded Miranda Langston's phone again. She lied. Arrest her. The billionaire was right. Miranda watched the screen with quiet satisfaction. Then she looked at Alana. "That's the problem with lies," she said softly. "They always catch up with you." The older officer rubbed his forehead. "Ma'am," he said to Alana, "this footage contradicts your statement." Alana stared at the tablet. Something felt wrong. Not just emotionally wrong. Technically wrong. The angle. The timing. The lighting in the clip didn't match what she remembered. And most importantly, the dog's reaction. Atlas had never barked at her. Not once. The lawyer closed the tablet calmly. "We believe this resolves the misunderstanding." Miranda nodded for the livestream audience. "I never wanted this to become such a spectacle." Her voice sounded gracious now, forgiving. But the security guard was already stepping closer to Alana again. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "you need to come with us." Her daughters clutched her coat again. The younger one was crying openly now. Alana closed her eyes for one brief second. The trap was nearly complete. Miranda had regained the narrative. The police were seconds away from detaining her. And once that happened, the livestream story would spread across the internet exactly the way Miranda wanted. But then, a voice spoke from behind Miranda's circle. "Wait!" Everyone turned. The influencer in the silver coat stepped forward again. The same woman who had hesitated earlier. Her hands trembled slightly as she held up her phone. "I have the full livestream archive." Miranda's head snapped toward her. "You what?" The woman swallowed. "My channel automatically records every stream." Miranda's voice turned icy. "Now, I told you to delete that." "I couldn't," the woman said quietly. The older officer stepped closer. "Archive of what?" "The entire live stream," she said, "from the moment Atlas ran to her." The aisle went completely silent. Miranda's lawyer moved quickly. "That recording is private content." But the officer shook his head. "Not if it documents a possible incident." The woman hesitated. Then she tapped her phone. The video began playing. The raw live stream feed filled the screen. Not edited, not clipped. The entire sequence. Atlas running across the aisle, straight to Alana, tail wagging, not barking, not aggressive. Miranda's accusations starting seconds later. Her friends echoing the claims. The moment Miranda typed the group message, "Stick to the same story." The officers leaned closer. The younger officer whispered, "Did you see that?" The older officer nodded slowly. Then the footage continued. Miranda instructing the witnesses, directing the narrative, framing the scene. The livestream comments began exploding again. But this time the tone was different. "Wait. She set it up? She told them what to say." Miranda's voice cut sharply through the air. "Turn that off." But the officer held up a hand. "Let it play." The footage reached the moment where Alana bent down. The moment Miranda's edited security clip had shown earlier. But the raw live stream showed the full context. Alana whispering softly to the dog. Atlas wagging his tail. No aggression. No grabbing. The officer looked back toward the lawyer. "Your security clip cut out half the interaction." The lawyer didn't respond. Miranda's voice trembled with fury. "That video proves nothing." But the live stream kept playing. And then the final piece appeared. The moment the microchip notification flashed briefly on Miranda's screen earlier. The camera had caught it clearly. The code. The same logistics routing identifier. The officer froze the frame. "What is this number?" he asked. Alana stepped forward slowly. "That's a Langston logistics routing code." Miranda laughed harshly. "You're reaching." But the officer was already typing the code into his patrol tablet. The system searched. Then a database result appeared. The officer's eyes widened slightly. "This code matches a flagged shipping route." Miranda's lawyer stiffened. The younger officer leaned closer. "A route connected to a federal investigation." The aisle went silent again. Even the livestream audience seemed to stop breathing. The officer looked up slowly. "Ms. Langston." His voice had changed now. "This route appears to be connected to multiple offshore transfers." Miranda's composure shattered. "This is ridiculous." But the officer continued scrolling. "Several shipments routed through Dock 7. Alana felt the words echo in her mind. The phrase she had whispered to Atlas earlier. Dock 7. The same route her mother had tried to expose years ago. The officer turned toward Miranda again. Why would your dog's microchip contain a reference code tied to an active federal investigation? Miranda said nothing. The silence stretched across the aisle. Then one of her influencer friends stepped backward nervously. I didn't know anything about that, she said quickly. Another friend looked at Miranda with sudden fear. You said this was just a misunderstanding. The alliance was breaking, right in front of everyone. The officer closed the tablet slowly. Ms. Langston, he said calmly, we're going to need you to remain here. Miranda's voice came out thin. You can't be serious. But the officer had already reached for his radio. We're requesting investigative support. The words echoed through the store. The live stream viewers surged past 200,000. Miranda looked around at the cameras, at the officers, at the friends who were slowly backing away from her. The empire she controlled with influence and narrative was collapsing in real time, all because of one thing she couldn't erase: the truth. Atlas wagged his tail again beside Alana, and for the first time since the confrontation began, Miranda Langston had nothing left to say. The atmosphere inside the luxury Manhattan supermarket had completely changed. Less than an hour earlier, the entire store had been watching Dr. Alana Brooks like she was a criminal. Now, every phone in the aisle was pointed in a different direction, toward Miranda Langston. The billionaire stood frozen under the white ceiling lights, her carefully controlled image cracking in front of hundreds of thousands of live stream viewers. The older NYPD officer lowered his radio slowly. Federal investigators have been notified, he said calmly. Miranda laughed once, sharp and hollow. This is insane. But the live stream chat had already turned against her. She set the woman up. She told the witnesses what to say. The code is real. Her lawyer stepped forward again, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. My client will cooperate fully. The officer nodded. Good. He turned the tablet slightly so Miranda could see the screen. The database entry was still open. Langston Logistics, Doc 7 routing code. Flagged under a federal investigation involving offshore cargo transfers. Miranda's face turned pale. You can't connect that to me, she said quietly. But the younger officer spoke before anyone else could. Your dog's microchip contains the routing identifier. Another silence fell across the aisle. Behind Miranda, her influencer friends slowly began stepping away. One of them shook her head. You never told us about any investigation. Miranda snapped toward her. You're overreacting. But the woman took another step back. I'm not getting dragged into this. The alliance was collapsing, exactly the way systems always collapse, from the inside. The officer turned toward Alana. Dr. Brooks, he said respectfully, we're going to need your statement regarding the codes you identified. For the first time that night, someone spoke to her with respect. Alana nodded slowly. Her daughters were still holding her coat, but their fear had softened. Atlas wagged his tail beside her. The dog looked almost proud. Miranda watched the scene with quiet disbelief. You think you've won, she said softly to Alana. Alana met her eyes calmly. This isn't about winning. Miranda's expression hardened again. My lawyers will bury this. The older officer shook his head. Ma'am, the live stream archive already exists on multiple servers. Miranda's breath caught slightly. The officer continued. And the routing code tied to Doc 7 has been forwarded to federal investigators. For the first time since the confrontation began, Miranda Langston had no response. Her power had always come from controlling the story. But tonight, the story had escaped her. The officer turned toward his partner. We'll escort Ms. Langston to a private area until investigators arrive. Miranda didn't move, but her lawyer gently touched her arm. Miranda, slowly, reluctantly, she followed the officers away from the cameras. The live stream viewers watched in stunned silence as the woman who had tried to humiliate a stranger was now being escorted out of the scene she created. Across the aisle, Alana knelt down beside her daughters. It's okay, she whispered. The younger girl wiped her eyes. Are we in trouble? Alana shook her head gently. No. Atlas leaned his head against Alana's shoulder. The officer smiled faintly. Well, he said quietly, looks like the dog picked the right side tonight. Alana stood slowly. The supermarket crowd had grown quiet now. Some shoppers avoided her eyes. Others nodded respectfully. The narrative had changed, but Alana didn't celebrate. She simply took her daughter's hands and began walking toward the exit. Behind her, investigators' sirens echoed faintly outside the building, the beginning of a much larger investigation. But Alana paused at the door for one last moment. She looked back at the aisle where everything had happened. Then she said quietly, "The truth doesn't shout. It waits for the right moment." Atlas wagged his tail, and the live stream finally ended. Stories like this resonate deeply because they reveal something uncomfortable about human nature and power. Miranda Langston represents a kind of authority that exists in many parts of the world. People who believe wealth, status, and influence allow them to control the narrative of reality itself. Her greatest weapon was not money or power alone, but the ability to shape public perception quickly. She understood that if the crowd believed her story first, the truth might never have a chance to catch up. Dr. Alana Brooks represents something very different. She represents discipline, patience, and the quiet strength required to endure humiliation without losing control. Instead of reacting with anger or shouting back at the accusations, Alana did something far more powerful. She observed. She waited. She trusted that truth, supported by evidence and the right moment, could dismantle even the most carefully constructed lie. This is one of the most important lessons we can take from this story. Truth rarely wins through noise. It wins through clarity, courage, and timing. The Bible reminds us of this powerful truth in Luke 8:17. "For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nor anything concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." In our daily lives, we may also encounter moments when we are misunderstood, judged unfairly, or treated with disrespect. The temptation in those moments is often to react immediately with anger or revenge. But stories like Alana's remind us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is quiet endurance. Sometimes strength is trusting that God sees what others refuse to see. And sometimes strength is standing still while the truth slowly reveals itself. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that dignity and truth still matter in this world, then you are exactly the kind of person we hope to reach. Because Black Resilience Stories exists to share stories of courage, dignity, justice, and faith. Stories that remind us that no matter how powerful injustice may appear, truth still has the final word. If you believe in stories that inspire hope, resilience, and strength, please like, subscribe, and join our community. And we'll see you in the next story.